Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stoneridge Connect 2026 session, Copilot Solution Documenter. I am Drew Weaver, and I'll be walking you through this cool little tool that we found. It's actually a set of tools. We'll be walking through one aspect, just one tool from that tool set, but it's one that we here at Stoneridge got very excited about once we saw it. Let's take a look at our agenda. I'll do a more detailed introduction of myself, and then we'll jump right in and talk about, okay, what is this AI documentation tool? What does it do? What can we use it for? If that piques your interest, we'll talk about how do I install the tool in my environment. Once it's installed, we'll look at how do I use the tool, and then we'll check the outputs of that use of the tool. And then we'll talk a little bit about the tool's limitations. So we're going in with eyes open and just so we know what it can do and cannot do at this point. So without further ado, I am Drew Weaver. As I said, I'm a lead functional CE support consultant at Stoneridge. I've got 12 years of experience working in Dynamics 365 CE. So that's sales, marketing, field service, project service, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've been a manager. I've led other teams across multiple Microsoft partners across that time. And as I said, I'm currently the lead CE support team member at Stoneridge Software. So let's jump right on in and talk about what the heck is this AI documentation tool. So it's the AI Copilot. When we say AI, we're talking about Copilot documentation as a tool within that tool set of something called PowerCat tools. And it's meant to analyze, organize, and summarize the contents of a solution from your CE environment or your Power Apps environment. Generates a document that you can download and share out with whomever needs to see it. It's going to allow you to share what's contained within that solution and summarize what's contained in that solution and do that thing that I know I hate, I know many people hate, documentation. It's not going to do it all for you, but boy, it's going to get you far down the road so you don't have to spend as much time as you normally do spend doing documentation because it tends to take a long time. All right, so how do I install the tool? First, you're going to navigate to the Power Platform Admin Center. I've included the URL there for ease of reference if you don't have that handy. Once you're in the Power Platform Admin Center, you're going to go to Manage on that left-hand side, Environments, and then you are going to see your list of environments. In my case, I just have the one in here, so I'm going to open up my functional learning environment. And once I'm in there on that summary page of my functional learning environment that I'm using here, I'm going to go over to that right-hand side to Resources and go to Dynamics 365 Apps. That's going to show you a screen that looks something like this, and you're going to go and you're going to click that Open App Source button, and that's going to load up a normal kind of storefront page that you're going to see. And in the search bar, you're going to search for the term PowerCat, and you're going to know that you've got the correct tool set when you see this in your search results. You'll click Get It Now right there, and that's going to start the installation process for you. Once that is installed in your environment that you've selected, you're going to see it show up in your normal app selector when you navigate to that environment. So to start using the tool after it's installed, you just navigate to your app selector in that environment, and you're going to go to PowerCat Tools right there. All right, easy enough. If you've installed anything from app stores before, this is going to be nothing new for you. Once it's installed, let's open up the app, and this is what you're going to see. And specifically, like I said, this is a tools set, so multiple, plural tools. We're going to be just focusing on the AI documentation. And to get there, you're just going to navigate to that AI documentation on the left-hand side once you open the tool, and then you're going to click New. And when you do that, you're going to see this overlay screen with two options, essentially. So select a solution, a non-default solution, to analyze and review and summarize, or you can upload a solution file from outside of that environment. So this part, the upload a file, is super cool and useful if you are working with an environment, or excuse me, if you're working in a tenant that has a ton of different environments. Maybe it's you just have a lot of dev going on. Maybe you have a tenant that has multiple different companies in it, and each company has a different subset of environments that they use. Either way, this little bit, the upload file, lets you install this tool set in one environment and then export a solution from any other environment, run it through this, and you don't have to install it in all those other environments. You can, if you wanted to, just install it in one environment and play around with it without having to go through and do that same process for every single one of your environments, because sometimes it could be a dozen or more. So anyway, that's pretty cool. And so for my demonstration purposes, I had a solution. I created a solution called Stoneridge Connect 2026, pretty on the nose. And I just put a bunch of different components in that solution just to see what the tool would do and what it could view and summarize and analyze, and maybe what some of the limitations were. What did I include in that solution? I included 3 tables worth of components. Specifically, I included the account, contact, and opportunity tables, and not the whole table, but just some columns, some views, some forms for each of those, just to see what that would look like once we get that documented in the solution. 1 cloud flow, 1 traditional workflow, 1 traditional action, a business process flow, plugin assembly, and some of the plugin steps for that assembly, as well as a smattering of web resources, including an SVG, PNG for some graphics files to see if it could do anything with that, as well as a JavaScript web resource component. Now that you know what's in the solution, let's take a look at the results. So what this tool does is it generates a Word document that you can download and save, share out with whomever you want. And so the results of that solution, the components within that solution that I just described, this is what that looks like. So we start with an overview, and this can be useful. It's going to look at all of the components you have in that solution. It's going to try and determine, okay, what are we doing with this? What kind of functionality is included in this? What is the intent of the components and the functionality within this solution? And so it's going to do its best to summarize that in this overview for you. So it's going to talk about some security and data management. It's going to talk about ensuring data integrity and control. It's going to talk about notifications and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of this is fluff. You may or may not find it useful, right? Then we're going to look at the solution details. That's going to look fairly familiar. This is basically the information you entered when you created this solution in the first place, right? So nothing crazy or surprising there. Now we're going to look at the prerequisites or the requirements that should be in the environment that you are going to be importing this solution into. In this case, it's just noting some connection references, or a connection reference in this case. It names it and gives you the logical name, so it's easy to find if you don't actually already have that in your solution. And then it's going to start looking at, okay, what kind of automations do we have? We've called out the Power Automate here, and this is very helpful, especially as we use Power Automate more and more these days. And people always ask, hey, what do these do? What are these automations supposed to be doing? And this basically gives you everything on that. Okay, what's it called? What is the description of that? How does it trigger? What actions does it take? If I had multiple different cloud flows in there, it would give me that explanation and breakdown for each one of those. And you don't have to go through and get screenshots or try to type it out and summarize it and all that stuff, which is very time consuming. So this is right here immediately useful for me as a consultant, and probably you as you are going through and dreading documenting what is contained in your solution. So then moving on, we've got, okay, some of our data and security and our tables, and we can start to see a little roughness around the edges. We've got unnamed table here, and this field. We've got some of the tables that are named, including our business process flow that we mentioned earlier, and another unnamed table. But if we scroll down just a little bit further, and again, I'll have you note these column names here. If we scroll down a bit further, we actually get an entity relationship diagram. And now we can see, oh, okay, that most recent column belongs to the account table, and that sales rep ID belongs to the opportunity table. Okay, that clears up. So I can easily go back here and override the unnamed table with account and with opportunity here. Not a big deal, but a little rough. That will get fixed in future version, I suspect. And then we have our summary here that walks through, again, reiterating what we saw in the overview and what we saw in these other sections here in that document. So that is the results of it. And you might be thinking, okay, that's some of the components, but where are the rest of those things that we talked about? Where's the JavaScript? Where's the references to the workflows? So this is where we get into the limitations, right? You may have clocked earlier in one of the screenshots when we looked at the app that it is coded as experimental. So this right now is basically experimental. Preview stage is another way to say that. So it's not fully featured at this point. And in fact, when you go to a configuration within the tool, you can see here's all the stuff that it can currently do. And that's reflected in that document that we saw, right? So you can actually choose to say, actually, the solution overview is fluff, the summary is fluff, whatever you say, I don't really need this. That's just taking up space. You can uncheck that and get rid of it from the document and then save it. So that's useful. But it's a sort of limited. So it does handle the cloud flows, as you saw, very well. For older stuff that I think Microsoft is getting away from, your traditional workflows, actions, things like that, plugins, which have always been a black box, they remain a black box in this, obviously. We don't have anything in this tool that's going to elucidate what those are doing. And that's okay, right? If you have simpler solutions, if you are only really including tables or some cloud flows, things like that, this is going to be perfect for you. And we should also note, one, this is still in the preview or experimental phase. And there's something that we always say at Stoneridge when we talk about AI, that AI as it exists today, Copilot as it exists today, is the worst that it will ever be. And what we mean by that is the functionality is going to expand and expand, right? So because this is still in a preview and its features are intentionally limited in this preview state, I would expect that to expand. So if you aren't seeing some of the things that you'd want to see in this analysis, in this tool that is going to document those things that you would typically have in your solutions, just wait a couple months and give it an install then. See what other features have been added. Because again, this is the worst this will ever be. It's only going to get better from here. So what did we learn here? The PowerCat tool has a tool called that AI documentation that we looked at today. It's got other tools. Feel free, if you install it, to explore those. Those are going to be more environment specific. The cool thing that we noticed about this is that you can bring in things from outside of your environment to analyze and summarize and give you that start to your documentation, right? It's never going to be 100%. AI is never going to get you 100% of the way there, and you probably don't want it to be. But if it gets you 70% of the way there, that's 70% of your time that you saved in that particular task. So that's incredibly useful for me and you, I'm sure, as you've got more things on your plate than hours in the day, right? So any time that you can save, anything that you can do more efficiently is always a benefit, right? So it can process solutions that already exist in the environment, as well as solutions from outside of the environment. Super cool. And just to add on to that second point is the reason why it can analyze solutions from outside of the environment is because it's not actually using anything from within that environment to do that analysis. It's only using the information that's contained within that solution. So those XML files, if you've ever opened up a solution, they're XML files. And if you've ever tried to parse through those, you've probably gone a bit cross-eyed because it's just a little hard to read as a normal human being, but AI can do that for you and summarize all that stuff for you. So that's super, super cool that you can bring something from outside the system as well as analyze those solutions from within your system. So this is going to be useful for, like I said, those simpler solutions or solutions that have simpler or fewer components that match into those categories that it's breaking down. It's going to be less useful for more technical systems or more technical solutions that might contain things outside of the tool scope. Again, your web resources, your plugins, your workflows, your traditional workflows and actions, things of that nature. But if the tool, like I said, if the tool doesn't currently suit your needs, check back in a few months. It's the current state of AI, current state of Copilot is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to get better. It's only going to get more robust, more useful for you going forward. So if you looked at this and you're like, not really for me, it's a little bit too limited in scope, give it a few months, check back and see what. All right. I hope you enjoyed this brief look at that AI documentation tool from the PowerCat tool set. I am extremely excited about this. It saves so much time on documentation, which I despise, as I'm sure you do. Documentation always takes more time than you think it will, and any way to cut down that time of spending on documentation and more time spending on doing the actual work is a-okay in my book. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of Stoneridge Connect 2026. Thank you.